We're going to take it to Maryland. There's pain in Maryland, too. Isn't that right, Reeta Hubbard? There's pain in Maryland because the Baltimore Ravens, they were supposed to have it, too. Number one seed. They blow everybody out at the bank. Come on into M&T Bank. Come on in. Come on in. Sit down. We'll give you a lollipop. We'll give you a little duffel bag. And we're going to send your ass home with a beat down, just like they do at the bank. We're going to send you home with a 30-point loss. And sure enough, they scored 10 points, Reeta. The Baltimore Ravens scored 10 points in a loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Tell us how, why, what. Reeta, help.
I mean, y'all saw it. Y'all saw exactly what happened. The Ravens did nothing that they did to get there. That's exactly what happened. And when you start getting cute and you look on the other side of the sideline and you see Patrick Mahomes over there, and you think that you want to outduel Patrick Mahomes and get into a dog fight that you're not used to, that's what happens. And so, ironically, it's funny because Patrick Mahomes actually had a more balanced game than Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense that got them there to begin with. So I don't know what happened here. I don't know if somebody decided that this was going to be Lamar Jackson's legacy game and they decided to do something completely different, or if they just completely unraveled at the seams very early on and abandoned the run early. But regardless, that is not how they ended up being the number one seed. That is not how they ended up being in the AFC Championship game. My least favorite thing, y'all, is when people start getting brand new and being somebody they not. Vince brought up Boomerang. I'm going to bring up another example, too. On The Different World, when Kimberly Reese was singing and then she forgot who she was and she came out with that nasty, bad Jerry Curl looking wig. That's what happened with the Ravens on Sunday. They forgot who they was. They forgot how good that they were at what they did. They tried to be somebody that they weren't with that nasty Jerry Curl wig that they put on Sunday that didn't affect anybody out there, including the Kansas City Chiefs.
Here's a question, Reeta. Was Todd Monken wearing the Jerry Curl wig? Was it Lamar wearing the wig? Was it Lamar and Monken?
Lamar and Monken. Lamar and Monken, because Lamar got to take some blame too. Like, I've had an opportunity, guys, to kind of look at some of the film from that game, and it's bad. I mean, there was opportunities for Lamar to run the ball. The strip sack fumble, to me, I think is the worst part, because first of all, he's holding the ball too long. And then that was something that was happening pretty regularly in that game. But then there's a lane that he probably gets about 20, 25, 30 yards there, and he just chooses not to do it. Instead, he wants to look down the field. It's almost like Lamar has allowed these narratives that he's heard, whether he has chosen to hear them or whether they just been brought to him, involuntarily, to affect how he's played football thus far. It's almost like he wants to show us that he can be the quarterback that can win games with his arm, forgetting that his superpower package is his legs as well. And I just don't understand why that game, the biggest game of your career, you decide that you don't want to do your biggest superpower that got you there to begin with.
Reeta, the thing that stuck out to me, and I'm not sure if it stuck out to you, but it just felt like an all-around unraveling when Zay Flowers, the taunting penalty. Now, I don't know what he said and then spinning the ball, but it looked like Travis Kelce was doing a lot of the same things. So I wonder if what he did was like solely, over the top, plus the dive to the end zone. Did it just look like the early start shook them and they were never able to get their legs underneath them? They were chasing points. They were chasing the moment. Is that what it felt like to you?
Yeah, it did. And it's funny because neither side of the ball started out doing what they did. The defense, though, eventually went back. The defense started out playing like a cover two, something that they don't really do a ton. They play a lot of single high, and that's what makes them really great. And then for whatever reason, they decided that they were going to play cover two and put everything in front of them, and Patrick Mahomes ended up being 10 for 10. So then eventually they went back to what they were great at, and essentially they shut them down, but not before scoring 17 points in the first half. And I do think that the Ravens got really nervous and skittish here and decided that they were going to try to do some things too, as opposed to just keeping honest, saying 17 points ain't a lot. This defense is still really good. Our offense is still really good. We got to do our game. And instead of doing that, they just fed into what the Chiefs do best, which is extremely weird to me. I want to say that they got out coached, but to me, I don't think it was that. I think that they outsmarted themselves. Football to me is a very simple sport, y'all. It is very simple. You are supposed to take what teams give you. Kansas City Chiefs had the 28th ranked rush defense. They didn't have Willie Gay at linebacker because of a neck injury. They have a top 4 pass defense. And for whatever reason, they decided to throw the ball all day. And so, you tried to do something that is not who you are. And that's how you ended up sitting at home planning to go to Cancun or Cabo while Taylor Swift and them is going to Las Vegas and going to the Super Bowl because one team stayed true to themselves. The other team tried to be somebody that they're not.
Well, they were outcoached then. Look, if you got that rushing attack, what you just outlined beautifully, if that's what you're going up against, and you got a head coach who's won a Super Bowl before, and you've got Lamar Jackson, and you've got Edwards, and you got Justice. I mean, come on. What are you doing? You should bet those guys didn't even run the ball. You look at the attempts that they had. Andy Reid got it right. He had a bunch of attempts, low yards per carry, but a bunch of attempts. So
Kept
Baltimore, that's what they do. And the other thing is, this is why they got outcoached. And yes, you have to hold the person in charge responsible, but people have to be accountable for their actions. Zay Flowers played right down the street at Boston College. Happy for him, first-round pick, really talented kid. Man, he looked young. Okay, you ain't like you scored. You had a nice long run. You did a little zigzag. Then you did a little spin and then stand over him. You ain't done nothing yet. We're still trailing. Get your ass back to the huddle. That's one. And then Kyle Van Noy, who I've seen play here, who has been part of a Super Bowl team. What are you doing, dog? You don't get away with headbutts. You might get away with a little push. You might get away with a little trash talk. A headbutt, they go catch you, even if the other guy did it first and the other guy didn't do it first. So they lost their minds, Reeta. They lost their minds from the coaching staff to the people on the field. Kansas City, I got to give Kansas City all the love that Kansas City is receiving and Mahomes is receiving, but it was a squander. They squandered a golden opportunity.
Yep, they self-imploded. And one team showed you that they've been there before. You see how that goes? Even with all the intimidation that they did, even with all of the things that they did, Travis Kelce absolutely started that situation. But we all know that the person who retaliates is the one that's going to get the flag. So instead of just walking away, you would decide to feed into it, something that the Ravens typically have not done all year, probably because they've not been in that position all year. So you allowed yourself to get out of character against a team who has been there before. Now this is their 4th Super Bowl. See, maybe if you just took some notes and see what they did on the other side of the ball, maybe you could be there. But instead, you allowed yourself to get out of character. You allowed yourself to outcoach yourself and outsmart yourself and not be who you are. And now you are in a situation where you are. So you got to give Kansas City the respect of, look, they know exactly who they are. They don't change for anybody. And they also have Patrick Mahomes back there that can essentially do anything with any cast. Because this is probably the worst cast sans Kelce that he's had thus far. But at the end of the day, what they don't do is try to be somebody that they're not, try to do things that they're not. Steve Spagnuolo is the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. He hasn't done anything different that he's done all year, guys. He hasn't changed anything. He does the exact same thing. He zones the linebackers. He plays man coverage with the cornerbacks. And for whatever reason, y'all decided, I want to challenge the all-pro cornerbacks that they have as opposed to not challenging the rush defense that was already vulnerable due to injury. Oh, and by the way, the defensive end ended up leaving the game at some point. Even more reason why you should run the football. I just don't understand what the Ravens were doing over there that day. They don't either, quite frankly.
Yeah, I'm sure they're still diagnosing a lot of that and sitting in mourning. Now, the day after usually is very emotional nationally. And there was a name that sort of came in my head, and I thought about it. Lamar Jackson's going to win his 2nd MVP. It's by consensus. It looks like he's going to win his 2nd MVP. And he hasn't gotten to the Super Bowl yet. And he's had some underwhelming playoff performances. You know who that reminds me of, quietly? Isn't that Peyton Manning's music? Do y'all see Peyton Manning anywhere around here?
Yep.
That reminds me of Peyton Manning, who eventually got over the hump. But do you see the parallels there?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen a lot of people talk about that. And I do see that for sure. It's funny because obviously we ain't have the internet back in the day when Peyton Manning was going through it. But I absolutely was one of those people that was like, Peyton Manning, y'all say it's so great, and he ain't won a Super Bowl yet. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely remember the struggles that Peyton Manning has had. Lamar has what it takes to get to a Super Bowl. But when you look at his playoff appearances, the 2019 divisional round game against the Titans, they abandoned the run. The 2023 AFC Championship game, they abandoned the run. The 2020 divisional round game against the Bills, they abandoned the run. So I'm confused as to why there's data. If me sitting on my couch can tell you that abandoning the run is a bad idea, I am confused why you have yet to do that. And then I looked up another stat, guys. Lamar has thrown around the same amount of pass attempts from what he did on Sunday 2 times last season. One against the Steelers, which was a loss. One against the Rams, which essentially had to go into overtime. The data says that you have to have balance. And I don't understand why Lamar or Monken or Harbaugh or whoever was responsible for what happened on Sunday felt like leaning into passing the ball when you were only essentially down 17 points with a whole half remaining. It just doesn't make sense to me. The only thing I can hope is that Lamar learns from this and leans into his superpower, which is he is the total package. He can throw the ball, but he also can run the ball. He's electrifying when he runs the football. And he's also the leading rusher of this team. He has to get back to doing what he does best. And once he realizes that he has to be who he is and stop listening to the outside noise, I think Lamar can get over the hump.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.